Jeff, we talk all the time about what it's like to be a kid trying to grow up in the sport. And everybody knows what it feels like to see people at the top. And you think it's almost like a magic trick, like they wear a cape. There's no such thing as a cape. Everybody's got to earn their keep. They got to earn their spot. And today we have this great episode because we have somebody who's at the top of the food chain. She's done everything the right way, and she's suffered. She's overcome. She's done everything. It's awesome. So welcome to another episode of Dialed and Driven Hockey Mentality Podcast. Jeff Lerg, goalie mentors, former professional hockey player. Chris Palmer, mental performance coach with Piranha Training. I work with athletes all over North America and Europe to help them figure out how to get the best they can get in their games. Jeff, I'd love you to do our intro, but I'm excited because we're going to have not just talking about it, but somebody who embodies all these things we talk about all the time.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's our first ever PWHL drafted hockey player, goaltender, Callie Shanahan. Callie, welcome to the Dialed and Driven podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm fired up to have you and talk to you a little bit more about your history, your path. Callie, you're someone who I think I first met you as you were a little 10-year-old, just an excited little tight goaltender coming to my goalie camp. Just kind of a smiley, laughing, goofy type goalie, kind of fits the mold. And you, along the way, really progressed yourself into being like a really highly competitive, kind of serious contender, so to speak. And you're obviously, we'll talk more about your journey into the PWHL draft and now you're training for it. But from that perspective as a kid, I don't know, I'd love to ask and hear your first maybe memory of starting to take it from, hey, my mom and dad drive me to the rink. I kind of show up and just do what I'm told and show up and play for my team. Like, when did you start to turn that into, I have some goals beyond what I'm currently doing, meaning youth? Like, you made it to the college hockey level at Boston University. If you can remember, when did that goal setting start to take place for you?
Yeah, I would say it started my freshman year of high school. Growing up, I actually grew up my whole life playing at Suburban, which is ironic. But growing up, I was just kind of always had that competitor mentality where I just wanted to be the best in everything I did, even though I was newer to the sport. And really, when I started to move into Honey Baked in my freshman year of high school, I was like, wow, like I really enjoy this sport and I want to continue it and get as far as I can, just because I've always had that mentality of like, I wanted to be the best at everything I could possibly be. And then when I realized that it is possible to play beyond high school and into college and even potentially pro, like that's when I really started to like set my eyes on those goals.
That's awesome. Yeah. And there was a period of time I was still playing professionally in the minors, and I lost track of training you a little bit. And then eventually I kind of circled back and became the goalie coach for that Honey Baked program, and you were playing there. So then I kind of reconnected as a teenager. And I remember one of the things that I remember best out of you is your team won the state championship. I forget if it was, you probably won it multiple years, but the one year I remember is the Michigan State Championships. They ended up being a best of 3 series. Yeah. Right. And I hope you know where I'm going with this. At some point, the teams needed to play their best of 3 series. And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you get in the other goalie? Wasn't it like a shutout every game? Or what was that story where it was like 1-0 every game?
Yeah, I think it was, I'm trying to think back. I don't even remember, but we won. We had like that morning or the previous day I won and got a shutout. And then the next day we had to win that morning to win 2 out of 3, but then we went into double overtime and lost. And then that night we played and I got a shutout.
But that was the game that was double overtime was a 0-0 game, and it was 1-0.
It was 1-0.
And the night before it was 1-0, and the championship was 1-0. So it was like 3 straight games you played, probably the equivalent of 4 by the time you took all the periods.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it was like you and the other goalie against each other. It was just, everyone knew it was like first goal wins.
Yeah.
And I remember that being like, wow, she is dialed.
Yeah.
Like if you get one past her, you're lucky. So that was one of my memories of you. And obviously that was kind of set the table for you to make it a Division I college hockey on the female market. Tell us about that experience? Like, did you always want to go out east to Boston? Did you have other schools, or what was your college recruiting process like?
Yeah. So starting after my sophomore year of college is when I started talking to some schools. When I made a couple USA camps that summer, I ended up making actually the U18 national team after that. And that is when I committed to BU, because I was actually the only one on the team that was uncommitted at the time. And I've always loved the city of Boston. It's such a great city, so much to do. And I knew that BU is a hockey school, they're known for their hockey. So during the recruiting process, during my end of my sophomore year, I talked to probably upwards to 15 schools at one point. And it was stressful, honestly, but it was a good kind of stress, just because this was my ultimate dream and goal. And it was just so cool. But I decided on BU just because of the academics and the athletics in the city. And I have no regrets whatsoever. It is just an amazing program and an amazing school, and I'm so happy that I went there. Yeah. So,
we talk about this like wearing a cape thing, and along the ideas, it looks like it was just easy. Like the whole thing was just smiling. You look like you're happy, and these guys listening, they know they're at all these different levels trying to figure out how they get there. And one of the hard things is because it does look so easy. It looks like, well, if it's not easy, maybe there's something wrong with me. People have that all the time. You started out being a kid with a vision, though. Like when you were little, you wanted to be the first NHL goalie, female goalie. You wanted to be that. And that was a big thing for you. That's pretty visionary. I mean, all the things you can be is pretty specific wanting to be that. You started out as a person who started in figure skating. Your dad, I guess, was a goalie.
Yeah.
And so you get all these influences and all these things. And you're here. It's almost like a magic trick, but it wasn't a magic trick. You had plenty of things you had to do, plenty of sacrifice. Can you talk to us some about the sacrifice? Because I know you didn't do what everybody else did. Yeah. You had this path that somehow led to here. What's some of the sacrifice stuff you had to go through to make this work?
Yeah, the success that I have is on the outside is just the tip of the iceberg, honestly, because there's so much that went into it, and people don't realize how big of a part that adversity played in my career and to where I am today. I've said this many times, but I would not be where I am today without the adversity that I went through. At one point in my college career, I wanted to quit the sport. I had my starting spot taken from me, and I literally talked to my parents about moving home back to Michigan and going to Michigan State and just being a regular student. It was at that point that I legitimately was so done with the sport, and then I went on to have a knee surgery and so much adversity, and that happened in my college career and even in my youth career too, but more so college. And I just think it's so important to let people know that your path is usually not what you expect it to be, and that's okay. And adversity should be seen as a building block, not an obstacle, because it quite literally has changed my life to something that's so positive and has made me into the person I am today and the player I am today. And it has completely shaped my life. And so, like I said, I would not be where I am today without going through those hard times. They sucked in the moment, and I could talk about it all day, like the tough times I went through, and I kept a lot of it to myself. But like I said, it's really helped me become the person and player I am today.
These kids listening, they've all had situations where they had a spot and they're moved to the side. They're maybe benched temporarily, or they literally lose their spot. Some people, they lose their team. You have this great trajectory, and then you're always like a 920 plus goalie. And you were in your sophomore year in that beginning. Your performance dropped off. It was really, really hard. And it's amazing that you got past it so well. I'd love to talk about kind of the secret sauce of that thing, because when you were there, you lost that spot, and it didn't feel like it was the way things were before.
Yeah.
And you overcame, but not before feeling some pain. You wound up being closer to a 900 goalie with 3.5 goals against or whatever, which is not you at all. You're in this crazy zone. Can you remember what it was like on the ice and what was going on in your head, maybe things you heard in your head while you were playing or going into games, versus when you finally got past it? Because your trajectory was awesome. Past that and past your injuries was amazing.
Yeah.
Can you tell me some about how you really were kind of down in that distracted garbage and how you got out?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a big piece of the reason why I was so down is because my confidence was so low. I was really trying when I played just not to lose instead of to actually win. And I tried to not make mistakes instead of just playing free and playing the sport that I loved. And it made me grip my stick tighter and made me more nervous before games. And I just played so nervous and just so tense and tight. And I honestly didn't even enjoy the games I played the first half of my sophomore year, just because I felt so scared to lose my spot, because I had my starting spot my freshman year of college. And then my sophomore year, I had a 5th year grad student transfer in. And great goalie, but she was 6 years older than me at the time. She was 25 and I was 19. So she had a lot more experience than me and played on the national team in Europe. So when she came in, I was trying to just not lose my spot. And that made me, like I said, so tense and so tight. And that really just completely shot my confidence, like completely down. And then actually the second half of my sophomore year, I played 2 games, which was insane.
So you look at this, here you have this trajectory that looks like the superhero. It looks like the hero story. Everything's going great. And then you wind up having this thing. It's adversity. I love that you're telling this story about, God, it's just bugging me so bad. And I was playing safe instead of playing free.
Yep.
But then you started to play some, and then you get your butt kicked not once, but twice by injuries.
Yeah.
You get an injury, and bad enough, you take the 6-week option, you go through that,
Yep.
and then you get injured again. And now we're talking months.
Yeah.
And now it looks like this little dream I had when I was a kid talking about I want to be in the pros. It's like everything's falling apart. How did you get from that to go back to being the monster that you were before? Because honestly, you're an execution monster. You just show up, you're positive, you figure things out, you get this great energy. How did you get back to that when you're in that, like you were in complete yuck?
Yeah.
You know?
It was really hard. And it wasn't just hockey. I struggled in school too. And my priorities weren't straight whatsoever that year. And at the end of that year, I was like, all right, it's time to get that trash out of the way, get that crappy year out. I'm ready for my junior year. And then, like you said, I did dislocate my kneecap, not once, but twice in a 6-week span, and then had to go the surgery route. So at that point, I was like, okay, what else can happen to me? Like, I just felt so low. I can hide it really well, but I just felt so defeated. And I was like, is this a sign that I should quit? Like, should I give up? Is hockey not really for me? And honestly, I was in that period for a while. I was in that period of denial and just like wanting to quit. And I think that's normal. And a lot of athletes do go through that, where it's like so much adversity. You're like, nah, maybe this just isn't meant for me. But honestly, having my surgery after all of that adversity was the turning point of my career, because after that kind of grief period of, okay, like, yes, I'm down in the dumps, I was like, you know what? Like, my whole life, I haven't been a quitter. Like, I have reached every single goal that I've wanted to accomplish. And I'm not just going to hang up my skates and be like, yeah, I'm moving back home. Like, that's not who I am. I've always had that fire competitive mentality in me. And I think that's part of the reason why I am, like I said, here today. So once I got through that grief period, I just realized, I was like, you know what? The adversity is what's going to build me and make me stronger. And a lot of athletes go through it, but don't talk about it. A lot of it looks like, oh, like it was easy to get to the top, but it's not that easy. And that's okay. So it really helped me become stronger mentally and physically. And just, it really made me learn to never take the game for granted, because you never know when it can be taken away from you. So it had me have a whole new perspective every time I stepped on the ice, that it's a blessing and it should never be taken for granted every time you step on that ice. So
that's awesome.
And you, as a kid growing up, like, you were a goalie, an athlete that I need to ask to work hard.
Yeah.
I'd come out for team practice and train you.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I can rely on Callie. She'll be dialed. Of course, there's going to be some goals go in, but you never had this lazy bone in your body. You always had a purpose.
Yeah.
And, I could tell you love the game, because that's what naturally happens. When you love something, you'll want to do it to your best. And I'm certain that your history of success and then your internal work ethic and that internal drive is really what kind of was able to steer you back on the tracks.
Yeah.
Because I think you made a really good point is, you never know when the adversity is going to hit. Like, everyone's path is different. Everyone's timing is completely different when the rubber meets the road on difficulties. And you went through this transaction period where it was just bad thing after tough thing after another tough thing. And sometimes that's what happens. Like just when you think you get it back on the rails, more adversity comes.
Yeah.
Right. So then I guess tell us about that next step. What happened in your junior year? Like what was the outcome of this? You realized it. You said you love it. You can go right back to what makes you best, working hard. Like what happened the next year and beyond?
Yeah. So after I was off the ice for 7 months after I had my knee surgery, and I wasn't supposed to get back skating until that next February. I had my surgery in July, but I got injured in May. So I was basically off the ice for so long. But I just put my head down and worked. Like I think that is one of my MO things is just I put my head down and worked, and I ended up getting back on the ice in the end of November, and my surgeon was absolutely shocked. He was like, I did not expect to see this coming, but I mean, props to you for doing that. And then I started playing games in the beginning of January. And ever since then, just my mentality switched. I just had this, every time I stepped on ice, I was like, this is my time. This is my crease. Like I just had this whole new level of confidence towards me because I knew I went through so much that I was like nothing is going to phase me anymore. Like if a goal went in, it wouldn't phase me. Like I was used to it. I was used to the adversity, and I just had this whole new lens to how I looked at myself and how I looked at the game. And I just was so confident in myself. Just this absolute switch compared to sophomore year where I was like, oh, I'm trying not to lose. I don't want to lose my spot. And junior year, when I got back, I was like, no, that's my spot. That's my crease. I'm taking it back. And ever since then, I had a pretty good rest of my junior year. Like I said, I only played half. And then my senior year is when I really had a breakout year this past year. It was my first full year being a starter, honestly. And I ended up playing 30 games, which was the most out of any year. And I just had confidence like no other. And it wasn't cockiness. There's a distinct difference between being cocky and arrogant and just having confidence in your abilities. And I think that I just would draw on my past experiences and drew on the adversity that I had and knew that I worked so hard for this moment. So, and I honestly, one thing too, is I just enjoyed playing the game. I played free and I just went out there to have fun. And it's crazy what can happen when you just play free and you don't hold your stick so tight and you don't play not to lose, you play to win. So yeah.
That's awesome. There's a thing that happens to everybody, especially in the beginning. First goal, everybody can kind of take it. Second goal gets a little worse. Third goal, the alarms start to go off because God forbid there's a fourth goal.
Yeah.
And then they get pulled. And,
for sure.
And you can probably remember being pulled.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice, any thoughts on really what went through your head as you're developing? You had some of that kind of adversity, which is a really common adversity for goalies coming up, where they can get past spinning out and worrying about everything. And like you said, gripping the stick tighter and be so worried to being able to play free. Was there anything you did in the face of adversity in a game that maybe allowed you to get back to that kind of flow state that you had?
Yeah, I think one big thing for me is I'm really big about staying present in the moment. And I know that's such an easy thing to say, but it's really hard to do, to stay present when you have fans yelling at you, when you have so much outside noise. But it's something I do actually is I try to look around and pick something out like a flag, let's say, and I try to describe that flag to try to get my mind off the future or off the past and get myself back into the present.
Awesome.
So I really and I also really focus on breathing, and I also skate off my crease. I skate to the boards and back for a reset. But something else I tell myself, after a goal, immediately I say flush it, immediately, because if you dwell on that goal, automatically your performance is going to decline, and it's going to have a domino effect. So I've noticed that in my game too. And it comes with maturity and it comes with playing the game for more years, and you learn what works for you. But for me, I just learned that staying in the present and immediately flushing that out is the best way for me. So
I think you're making Chris salivate over there, because you're basically going through his whole curriculum of all these teaching points, is reset, is the failure mechanisms, everything. So Chris, I'll let you give another question, because I know you're just chomping at the bit.
I am dying, because very rarely do you get somebody at the top of the food chain who's willing to admit any of these things.
Oh,
and it's so great because it's exactly why you're where you are. You're being rewarded because you're not allowing yourself to stay in the garbage.
Yeah.
But it would be so easy to stay in the garbage. And you actually decided everybody's at the fork in the road when bad things happen. And you can either act like it doesn't exist and try to bury it, and that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or you can face it head on. We talk about the monster shrinking, and you did all these great things. I'd love to talk about this time, though, when you got drafted.
Yeah.
Because everybody in their career has these steps, right? You're really, really good here, and then you go up to maybe AA, and then you go up to AAA, and then you go up to whatever the levels are. And you've had lots of those. But this is the top of the mountain. And I know you're ready for it. We talked off camera. You're totally ready. You just cannot wait to go do this.
Yeah.
But were there any thoughts you had, like earlier in your career, where, okay, I'm going to this level, I got to make sure I perform. And then how did you get past that little bit of butterflies, or maybe that little bit of, we talked about imposter syndrome, almost like, am I really this good?
Yeah.
Did you have any of that, and how you got past it?
Absolutely. And I think that's common with anything new, right? You think like you're going to this new level and you're like, oh, am I like really good enough for this? And I think that's completely normal and that's completely okay. But I think one thing for me is that, like I said, they won't choose you, and I wouldn't have got like to these next levels if they didn't have belief in me. And so that's what I sometimes struggle with this too. I'm like, you know what, like, am I ready? But they wouldn't have chose me if they didn't believe me and didn't see that. Cause like sometimes when we're like in our own head, like we don't see what other people see. Like we don't see our play as other people see it. And we have to realize that other people like see things in ourselves that we don't see, and you wouldn't make these other levels like if people didn't see that in you. So I think it's just really important to reinforce that, but also like take it with humility and realize like, yeah, these will be the best women in the world that I'm playing with, and I'm taking it as like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And yeah, I might fail and I might have adversity, and that's okay because I've gone through it before and I can do it again. And that's just a part of life. Adversity is a part of every aspect of life, and that's okay. So I think that just to have like that learning mentality and growth mindset of, yeah, this is going to be a new adventure, but you know what? Like, I'm just going to have fun and try my hardest because that's all I can do. I can control my attitude and effort. That's about it.
And I think that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you separately. I know you're getting ready for the New York Sirens. We had to look that up to see where you're going, but we'll be fans of them. But you as an athlete, as a goaltender, we already know like you're a super hard worker. I get to see you in the gym now every day. You're training. You look like a professional. You're taking it like it's your job, but you're still obviously working to find the fun in it.
Yeah.
And something about you is you've trained with a lot of different goalie coaches, right? You've had a lot of different inputs provided to you over the years.
Yeah.
I mentioned I met you as a 10-year-old. You've had a variety of other people, personnel that have taught you, coached you, trained you.
Yeah.
And something that I see with youth athletes is that many athletes, like they can get a lot of coaching, but they just don't know how to apply it. Just in my evaluation from afar, you've learned a little bit from everyone, and then you're still Callie Shanahan. So I don't know, maybe you can take us through your training process, because that is unique. Like you do have different voices that are giving you feedback. So maybe give us some history on that general theme of what you've done over the years and what you've taken out of it for yourself.
Yeah, I think one of the things I did do that, and it is pretty unique to have a few different coaches, but I like to have a lot of different perspectives because everyone has a different style of play. And then I kind of like to make it into my own style of play. And as I've learned, like as I've matured and grown up, that a coach can tell you as much as you want, but you have to be the one to execute it, and you have to be the one to implement it into your own play. And that's what I've learned. Like, I love to learn. I am a student of the game. I love to learn like all these different perspectives and ways, but eventually, like, once you become old enough and mature enough, you have to realize what works for you and what kind of playing style works for you. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love, like I said, I'm kind of a nerd for hockey. Like, I love to hear a bunch of different stuff and different ways to play. But like, once you grow up, you kind of mold those different things, and then you want to have your own unique style of play because no two goalies are the same.
Is there anything, thinking about, there are kids who are going to be 8 years old listening to this. There's people who are 18 years old listening to this. And in all of this, is there anything you think that you wish that kids knew? So many of them get stuck. Things you wish that they could every day remind themselves of, so that they can have a life that feels like a life instead of this life of, man, when am I going to be good enough? When am I going to be good enough? Because most people aren't in your position.
Yeah.
And you're there because you got past it. Is there anything you'd want to share, knowing that there's a kid out there listening, trying to make sense of this crazy hockey dream?
Yeah. I would say to focus on getting 1% better every day. And it can be a cliche thing, but it's the truth. That doesn't mean you have to work out every day. That doesn't mean you have to skate every day. That means finding one way to get better every single day. And that even can mean getting 9 hours of sleep at night. That can even mean eating healthy. That can mean working on your mental side. But I think that just compounding that over time is what has really had the biggest impact for me. Just trying to focus on every day, hey, I'm going to get a little bit better to reach my dream. But it's also important to note that like I said, adversity is okay and it shouldn't be looked down upon, because it is bound to happen in every single person's life and career and sport. So, and that's okay, but it should be used as a stepping block and a building block, and not something as an obstacle in the road and a way to quit.
So just to summarize, I hope you guys listening hear this. We're talking about somebody who's at the top of the food chain. Everybody has this dream and she's at the top. And the great thing about this is she's telling the truth. She's not acting like she wears a cape. She had terrible things happen. She had something that she thought was hers and it got taken away, and she had to figure out a way to get past that. She had injuries. She worked through them. Didn't work. Another injury. And on top of that, everything just felt like it's going to fall apart. And again, she decided that she can get back up and keep trying and go for this dream. She had this dream when she was a kid, but it got modified over time. And in the end, she's all in everything she has for everything she wants, because this is a life of her choosing. She's decided that the adversity is actually the gift. It's the portal to every great thing. These are amazing lessons, not from me. What did I do? It's from her. This is a great model of exactly what you can have in your life if you fight back, if you get back up, if you stay dialed, if you stay driven, if you're giving everything you have for everything you want. And when things go bad, trying to stay in this moment right here and not be everywhere else. Because it's so easy to instinctively be fearful. And it's a lot harder to move toward staying right here and giving everything you have. But it gets easier and it gets better, and you're living proof. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, Callie, that was amazing. My summary to everyone is to listen to this episode again. You hit 15 different points and phrases that I commonly tell goalies and athletes of this age. You hit Chris's whole curriculum of the things that he topically goes over week after week. Like, there's a reason why you climb the ladder up into the 1% of the female hockey world. There's a reason, because you've matured from this little 10-year-old smiley, goofy goaltender I met to now a 22-year-old professional hockey player. Like, you've learned those lessons along the way. And it was amazing to hear you eloquently describe your mentality and some of those lessons that you learned, because that's truly what it takes. So thank you again for coming in, taking the time. Obviously, we'll all be rooting for you.
Yeah,
and I want nothing but the best for your experience. Enjoy it. Like you said, keep enjoying it, because when it's done, it's done. I'm jealous of you.
Yeah.
So keep enjoying it, have fun, and keep working hard. And to all of our listeners, remember to keep staying dialed and staying driven on your goals, as that's the only way to accomplish success. If you haven't yet followed us on all social channels, we're at Dialed and Driven, and we're at Dialed and Driven on Gmail. So chat with you again next week.
One of the best saves you will ever see keeps this game alive.
Chris Palmer again, the Hockey Mentality Podcast, Dialed and Driven.